Kedoshim, a perfect title. Last week in Parshas Achrei Mos, we found out all about the special service done by the Kohen Gadol, the holiest person in the holiest place, on the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. But the Kohen Gadol isn't the only person who can be holy.
Oh, really?
Really? You think so?
Absolutely.
This week's Parsha is called Kedoshim, meaning holy.
What a perfect title.
Here you'll find a parade of mitzvos that all Jewish people can perform every day of the year.
And by doing these mitzvahs, everyone, man and woman, boy and girl, young and old, can become holy.
Absolutely fantastic.
That's super duper.
Kedoshim, holy. Moshe gathered all Bnei Yisrael together and said, Hashem wants us to be holy, Kedoshim. So Hashem has given us many mitzvos that we can do all year long. Each and every one of you must listen very carefully to what I am about to teach you. There's a lot to learn. Indeed, of the 613 mitzvos in the Torah, there are more mitzvos in Kedoshim than almost any other parsha.
Is that really true?
It's true.
Moshe made sure that the people understood each and every one of them. Hashem said,
Kedoshim tihu, you shall be holy, because I am holy.
It's true. When Bnei Yisrael keep the mitzvos, they become the holy nation.
Please note, since we don't want to make it too difficult for our Shazak artist, we won't list each and every mitzvah of the Parsha.
Phew, thanks a million. That's a relief.
Instead, here's a sampling of mitzvos, many of which you can do every single day of the year.
Believe it or not, it's true.
Your parents, your mitzvah. This one's for kids of all ages. It's the mitzvah of showing honor and respect to your mother and father, and for your mother and father to respect their mother and father every day, not just Mother's Day or Father's Day. Let's face it, if not for your parents and their parents, there wouldn't be a you around today. And that's besides all the wonderful things that they do for you. Cooking, cleaning, sending you to a wonderful school.
And let's not forget, buying you a Shazak Parsha or Out of Egypt book.
Here are some of the many ways you can honor your parents. Your mother or father may have a special seat at the dining room table or a favorite cozy armchair in the living room.
Don't sit in their place unless you have permission.
Never call your parents by their first names. Your mother's best friend might call her Sarah, but to you she should always be Mom or Ma, Mommy, Ima in Hebrew, and Mama in Yiddish. When your mother or father speak,
listen respectfully without interrupting them. I know it's a little hard.
Your parents probably don't take a daytime nap, but Shabbos, the day of rest, is an exception to the rule.
So be very quiet. Shh. And try to play quietly with your little siblings. After all, your parents work so hard and deserve a little rest.
Can you think of other creative ways to honor your parents?
I got an idea.
What?
Oh, you have to be in the pucha team in the Farunja.
That's a brilliant idea.
Ay, 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 ay. Damon Huckstad Shining.
Farmers alert! No cutting corners. Nowadays, there are so many professions. Doctors, nurses, lawyers, judges, rabbis, computer programmers, accountants, architects, carpenters, plumbers, policemen, firefighters, artists, scientists, storekeepers, bakers, librarians, teachers, authors, secretaries, taxi drivers, bus drivers, and the list goes on and on.
Etc., etc., etc.
However, when Bnei Yisrael entered Israel thousands of years ago, there weren't so many career options. Most were farmers, so Hashem made sure that there are all kinds of mitzvos geared towards them. Here's the first one.
Peah, corner.
When a farmer harvests his crops, he must leave a corner of his fields uncut so that poor people can take what they need.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank the one above.
Thank you kindly.
the mistake mitzvos. And another farmer mitzvah.
Leket, collecting.
While collecting the harvest, if 1 or 2 stalks of grain fall to the ground, the farmer can't pick them up. They must be left for the poor. If 3 fall down, he may pick them up. This next one is just for our forgetful farmer friends.
Shikha, forgetting. Forgetting? Forgetting.
Sometimes a few bundles are accidentally left behind in the field. The farmer is not allowed to go back and get them. Once again, they belong to the poor. Here's a very important rule regarding these 3 mitzvos. A farmer is not allowed to say,
"Now you listen up, everybody. Only my poor friends and relatives are allowed to take Peah, Leket, and Shikha from my fields. They're mine. If I don't know you, you are trespassing."
That's because Hashem wanted each and every poor Jewish person, whether the owner knows him or not, to have enough food and never go hungry.
do not steal. Here in Parshas Kedoshim, Hashem tells Bnei Yisrael for the first time,
Lo signovu, do not steal.
Wait a minute!
Hold it!
Isn't this the 6th of the 10 Commandments already mentioned in Parshas Yisro?
That's a great question.
Actually, in the 10 Commandments, the mitzvah not to steal isn't about money or property. It refers to kidnapping. But here in Parshas Kedoshim, the mitzvah is not to steal someone else's belongings.
Please don't take my basketball. It's signed by my favorite player.
Pay up! The Torah then tells us about another form of stealing we should avoid. When you hire someone to do a job, pay him at the end of the day, unless, of course, both parties agreed to other terms. For example, when he finishes the job, or at the end of the week. So here's a Shazak scenario. Little Goldie Goldstein loves her little chair, but it broke. No fault of hers. You see, Mr. Plumpstein, who happens to be a bit plump, sat on it. And
That had to hurt.
anyway, Goldie convinced her mom to call the carpenter, Mr. Howard Hammerstein, to fix it.
Mr. Hammerstein, we have a job for you. Ready for a challenge? It won't be easy.
You mean harder than the last job you gave me, Mrs. Goldstein?
Much harder.
Well, okay.
Now Howard spends the entire day measuring, sawing, and hammering away. When the chair is finally finished at the end of the day, Goldie's mom shouldn't say,
Thanks a lot, Mr. Hammerstein. Come back in a few days for the money.
No, no, no. Absolutely not. Out of the question.
Mrs. Goldstein must make sure to pay Mr. Hammerstein right away. No tripping equals no tricking. The Torah says don't put a stumbling block in a blind person's way. The simple explanation is that if you are helping a blind person walk down the street, don't purposely lead him into a solid wall. Oh!
Ouch, that hurts.
Actually, this mitzvah refers to everybody, whether they can see or not. The Torah is telling us don't trick someone by giving bad advice or wrong information. That person is like a blind person, since he does not know that something ahead might trip him up.
It's time for a Shazak scenario.
Mr. I'll never tell a lie, the used car salesman, might say something like, "Trust me, this car is so good, I'd sell it to my very own mother. And on top of that, I'm giving you an awesome deal." His smooth talk convinces an unsuspecting customer to buy the car. And the next day, the engine starts rattling, the bumpers start bumping, and the brakes start braking.
Why don't you look me up?
I can't believe it. It's a new car, and it now sounds like an old rundown wreck. I was swindled.
So Mr. I'll never tell a lie actually put a stumbling block in the path of his blind customer by tricking him into thinking the car was a peach when it was really a lemon.
Yakety, yakety, yak. Did you hear the one about it? Let me tell you about... Oh, no, not that one. Yes, that one. Oh, yes, seriously.
A few weeks ago in Parshas Tazria, we learned about saras, leprosy, and lashon hara, gossip. This disease was a skin condition that caused a person to become tameh, impure. In this week's Parsha, Hashem tells us clearly, Lo selech rachil, do not go spreading lashon hara. Indeed, lashon hara causes a vicious cycle that can go something like this. Mrs. Y. Yentelovich tells a juicy bit of news to her best friend, swearing her to secrecy.
Don't you tell Sol.
And of course, before you know it, the best friend tells her neighbor.
Psst, did you hear the news?
What are you babbling about?
The neighbor spreads the juicy gossip to her husband.
Psst, did you hear what I heard? Would you believe that? Psst, 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 psst.
And he tells the guy behind the counter at the supermarket.
Psst, guy behind the counter. Wait till you hear this news.
The supermarket guy tells his boss, who tells his niece.
You'll never believe this, but it's true.
Oh,
Absolute gibberish.
The niece, whose name is not Denise, tells the mailman.
Mailman, have I got a good piece of news for you. It's all about...
And the mailman delivers the gossip to the man who lives in the red brick house on the corner.
Hey, Mr. Brickhouse, listen to this one. It's true, I heard it with my very own ears.
Before you know it, everyone is talking about some terrible thing that someone did.
Yeah, but don't you like us out? Why not going to blast? You can prophesy a thing here and around the city, you're going to get a promise here.
And whether it's true or not, it could ruin that person's life. And who knows if that little piece of gossip didn't grow and grow along the way from a little innocent mistake to a huge, terrible sin. One of the worst ever.
Bottom line, be careful what you say and what you pass on. Words spread fast, and they could change from good to bad to worse to terrible quicker than you can say.
Pass me a pumpernickel rye bread sandwich with mustard on top.
Huh?
What?
As the words whiz by. Nowadays, with modern technology, gossip can spread faster than ever before. People can be reached instantly at any hour of the day.
Within a split second, a vicious rumor can make it around the world and back.
This means that we have to be especially careful not to be swept into the lashon hara mess. Whether by foot or by phone, the result of lashon hara is bad news.
That's bad. Real bad.
Help.
The only solution is to absolutely refuse to spread rumors about other people,
whether or not you think they're true.
Oh, prosciutto bien, solo papino si prosciutto. No.
And if someone tells you that so-and-so said such and such about someone else or about you, don't believe one word of it.
That's not true.
And certainly do not pass it along.
The greatest rule ever. This mitzvah of loving your friend as you love yourself, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, is in this week's parsha. And it's the most important mitzvah of all. In fact, it includes all of the other mitzvahs of the Torah. All other mitzvahs are essentially details of this basic principle. Look, for example, at the other mitzvahs in this parsha.
Honoring parents, not stealing, leaving grain for the poor, not gossiping, not giving bad advice, and paying a wager on time.
These are all ways of being kind and loving to someone else.
Oh my, what a most wonderful surprise!
The Torah on 1 foot. Long, long ago, a non-Jew came to the great Rabbi Hillel and demanded,
"Teach me the entire Torah while I stand on 1 foot."
Now, how long can you stand on 1 foot?
I can stand on 1 foot for around 27 seconds, more or less.
Probably a lot less. I would say 7 seconds.
And I can stand on someone else's foot for a lot longer than that.
Enough with your Shazak jokes. Back to the story, please.
Indeed, standing on 1 foot for a long time is no easy task. You really need good balance.
Now, is this guy joking? How could anyone learn the entire Torah in such a short time?
Impossible!
Even the greatest and brightest of Torah scholars would spend their entire life studying. And there's always more to learn.
But Rabbi Hillel didn't hesitate. He replied,
"Do not do to your friend what is hateful to you. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is commentary. Now go learn it."
Chukim Mitzvos, the King's Decree. There are 613 mitzvos in the Torah.
That sure is a lot of mitzvos.
Some of them are so logical, they make so much sense, that even without Hashem commanding us, we would do them anyway.
Some examples are not to steal or murder, honoring parents, and giving charity.
These mitzvos are called mishpatim, meaning judgments. We could probably figure them out using our own good judgment. Yet there is another category called chukim, meaning decrees. These are mitzvos that nobody would ever have thought to do, and even after Hashem commands us, it's hard to know the true reason. Indeed, chukim may be the hardest mitzvos to keep.
The non-Jews may laugh at them.
The Yetzer Hara tells us they make no sense.
So Hashem tells us that they are no less important than the ones that are easy to understand. After all, every mitzvah is from Hashem, and we trust and believe that He knows what is best for us.
Excellent. This is fantastic.
Don't mix and mess with the King's master plan. Our Parsha speaks about 3 special chukim mitzvos concerning forbidden mixtures, and they are all compacted into one pasuk, short and sweet.
Es chukosai tishmoru, behemtecha lo sarbiya kelayim, sadcha lo sizra kelayim, uveged kelayim sha'atnis lo ya'ale olecha.
What makes it even more special is that Hashem begins by letting us know that these are chukim. Hashem says, "You shall keep my chukim. Do not crossbreed 2 animals of different species. Kilayim, do not plant your fields in Eretz Yisrael with 2 different kinds of plants. Kilayim, do not wear clothing of wool and linen. Sha'nez kilayim." The Torah lists 3 kinds of mixtures, animals, plants, and fabric, and they are all forbidden under the same word, kilayim, which means mixture.
What's wrong with these mixtures?
Well, these 3 mixture mitzvos are chukim, so we may never know the true reason. Not at least until Mashiach comes.
Regardless, we still try to understand chukim to the best of our ability. One great Spanish rabbi of the 13th century, known as Rabbeinu Bachya, offered this explanation.
Hashem made his world just so, each plant unique and special, and each animal different and amazing in its own way. When we mix and match, trying to create a so-called new and improved species, we are messing with the perfect product created by Hashem himself.
Sha'atnez, kosher coats. In all probability, you're not a farmer who has to worry about the Kalayim mixture of animals or mixing 2 kinds of plants. So let's go straight to something that concerns you. Clothes Kalayim, called Sha'atnez.
Shatnez. A very interesting word. It's the chok that commands us never to wear a garment of wool and linen.
According to Shatnez experts, even if the label says that the garment is 100% wool, it may possibly be Shatnez, since the government allows it to have as much as 2% of other materials.
So if you can't trust the label, how do we make sure our garments are Shatnez free?
Simple. Bring them to your local Shatnez lab.
Only an expert Shatnez tester with a trained eye using a microscope can determine whether your clothes are kosher.
But what happens if you buy some clothes, get it tested, and the verdict is Shatnez?
In most cases, a garment that contains Shatnez can be fixed.
Not to worry, Mrs. Guggenheimer. Within no time, I'll take out those strands of linen. It's an easy tailoring job that'll run you $5.
There is the rare case, however, when this tailoring operation just can't be done. So hold on to your sales receipt.
So there you have it. 3 mitzvos, each one of them a chok, and all in one pasuk, the last one being Shatnez.
To make this chok even more confusing, sometimes it is a mitzvah to wear Shatnez.
Huh?
You may ask.
Well, it is certainly true. The Kohen Gadol's avnet and ephod, worn by him when he served in the Beis HaMikdash, had to be made out of wool and linen. That's Shatnez.
Bottom line, whether we understand it or not, it really doesn't matter. After all, the mitzvah of Shatnez is a chok.
Men alert! No cutting corners. Speaking of chukim, now for another chok. When Jewish boys and men get a haircut, they must tell the barber to be very careful not to cut the corners, the side locks in front of the ears. These side locks are called payas.
It's similar to the other word in our parsha, peah, corner of the field.
Although the Torah does not explain the reason for this mitzvah, the great Rambam writes,
The Torah teaches us the mitzvah of leaving side locks in order to stay far away from customs that are related to idol worship. In the olden days, idol worshippers used to cut their hair evenly, all the way around their head.
Mishneh Torah, Laws of Idolatry, Chapter 12, Halacha 1. In fact, the name of a Christian priest in Hebrew is galach, related to the Hebrew word giluach, which means shaving.
That's because long, long ago, those priests would shave the hair on their faces as well as their payos,
Leaving a rounded look, just like the idolaters of old.
Most Jews are careful not to cut the payas above the cheekbones. There are many different customs regarding the length and styles of payas. Most notable are the Hasidic Jews and Jews from the country of Yemen, some of whom never trim their payas.
So interesting.
Some twirl them into long hanging payas.
I never knew that.
Others wrap their payas around their ears.
Is that really true?
It's true.
And yet others tie them up under their yarmulkes. That's the best I did in a long time.
By the way, the Yemenite Jews have a different name for payos. They call it simanim, meaning signs, since their side locks are the signs that distinguish them from their Arab neighbors.
I never knew that. You learn something new all the time with Shazak. What does Shazak mean anyway? Shh, it's a secret.
Hashem's holy places.
Keep my Shabbos, umekdashai tira'u, and fear my holy place.
Hashem continues, referring to the proper respect we should have towards our holy Mishkan and Beis HaMikdash. These are the places Bnei Yisrael connected with Hashem and where korbanos were brought up. Although the Beis HaMikdash is not standing, we still must give proper honor to the place of the Mikdash, the entire Temple Mount.
And now for something completely different.
Here's a Shazak question, but answer quick.
Besides learning Torah, what other religious thing takes up a lot of time of someone who tries to keep the Torah?
That's a great question.
I'm sorry, but all questions must be submitted in writing.
Well, for you, we'll make an exception. Tell us your answer.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Need a hint?
Many of these Jews go there twice or 3 times a day.
By now, you probably guessed it. It's a synagogue, also known as a shul.
People spend hours and hours in the shul, especially on Shabbos.
Praying, learning Torah, and having a super duper kiddush.
By the way, believe it or not, although the synagogue is central to Jewish life, there's no clear mention of a synagogue in the Torah.
Oh, really?
Now back to the Parsha.
Our rabbis tell us that every Jewish community should build their own synagogue, and they should honor it as a Mikdash Me'at, a miniature Beis HaMikdash. Perhaps this explains why Hashem combines 2 mitzvos together,
Keep my Shabbos and fear my holy place.
It's because Shabbos, more than the weekday, is the special time when Jews congregate in their holy place, the synagogue.
Well, on Shabbos it may be difficult to sit still in shul for such a long time. So here's some suggestions of a few Shazak shul activities.
Open a siddur and daven, pray, and enjoy singing along to the beautiful tunes.
Take a chumash and follow along the reading of the Torah. Now that you have read Shazak Parsha, find out what it says in the original source, the Chumash. Feel free to use a Chumash with English translation.
Listen carefully to the way the Baal Koreh sings the Parsha. The more you listen to him, the more you'll appreciate his reading. And if you follow along every week, you may even pick up this important skill.
For your information, there are different tunes and different styles of reading the Torah. Ashkenaz, Sephardi, Moroccan, Yemenite, and more. And here's another shul activity.
Tell me more.
Guess who will get the next Aliyah to the Torah?
I think it's gonna be the president of the shul.
I think it's gonna be the rabbi.
No way, the rabbi got an Aliyah last week. There's only one Aliyah left, and Mr. Geldgeber just had a granddaughter. He'll probably get the Aliyah.
How about guessing what topic the rabbi will speak about during his Shabbos speech?
It's Parshas Kedoshim, so I guess it's the annual Love Your Neighbor sensitivity speech.
Really brilliant. It's really clever.
And I think the rabbi is going to skip his speech this week. We're running late. Did you see how long it took the Chazan to finish Shachris? I think he broke a record.
911, what's your emergency?
Well, if you have any other good shul activity ideas, let us know at Shazak. Well, I have a splendid idea. Splendid, I say. How about if the kids give the Shabbos speech every now and then instead of the rabbi?
The guy is brilliant. Really brilliant.
Yeah, super idea. That's the best idea I ever heard. In the last 5 minutes.
Elderly honor. Ready for another 2 mitzvos, both in the same pasuk?
Absolutely.
Mipnei sevatakum, before an elder person rise.
Here's a Shazak scenario. Mrs. Ida Altabova gets on a jam-packed bus. She hobbles down the aisle, and it's quite clear how uncomfortable she is. You can see the worry on Ida's face, as if to say,
Oh my, how will I be able to stand for the next half hour?
Before you know it, little Batya gets up and says,
Excuse me, Mrs. Lady Mensch. It will be so nice if you sit right here. How about it? Please? Pretty please? With a cherry on top.
Mrs. Lady Minch took up Batya's offer, and there you have it. Batya quickly and easily fulfilled the mitzvah.
Mipnei seva takum.
Or how about if little Avi sees his elderly neighbor walking in the park? Quickly he gets up and with a smile on his face says,
Good morning, Mrs. Navy Person. It's so hot. Around 1,000 degrees outside. Come sit down here on this shady park bench. Please, please.
I sure will, Avi. Thank you. That's a real lifesaver.
Now for the second part.
V'hadarta p'nei zakein, and you shall give honor to the elderly.
But this zakein does not only mean old people. Our sages say that zakein is short for Ze Shekana Chochma, meaning this one has acquired wisdom.
So if your teacher or principal, even if they are young in age, enter the classroom, it's only proper to stand up.
That's because they are wise with Torah wisdom.
And that's called respect.
It's great exercise too.
Who gave you this idea?
How much are these apples in the window?
And another mitzvah. And this time it's not for a farmer. It's for a storekeeper.
It's important for him to have accurate scales to weigh the items he sells.
Here's how it worked in the alte Zeiten.
In the olden days.
Old-fashioned scales had two big bowls. The fruits or vegetables would be in one bowl, and the weights would be on the other. If, for example, a customer wanted to buy 5 pounds of apples, the storekeeper would put 5 one-pound weights on one side and the apples in the other, and adjust the weights until the scale finally balanced. Then the customer would pay, thank the owner,
Thanks so much, Mr. Balaboos,
and leave with his apples. But what if the 1 pound weights actually weighed less than 1 pound?
Or what if a greedy store owner secretly smeared wax on the fruit side of the scale so that it actually weighed more and cost more?
Either way, the customer would be paying full price for less than 5 pounds of apples. He'd probably never find out he'd been cheated.
That's not very nice.
Today, many stores use fancy electronic scales with computers and digital displays, but the mitzvah is the same. It's the storekeeper's responsibility to make sure that the scales are 100% accurate. In fact, he is not allowed to own an inaccurate scale, even if he does not use it.
Well, that really makes a lot of sense. And it also saves a lot of sense, at least for the customer.
You're a smart man.
Now, take a good look at the Shazak picture, and you'll notice how the store owner pushes his arm on the scale.
Oh no! Now it's $20 for 1 apple. Oh no! What's gonna be?
Good choice, Mrs. Lady Mensch. You picked a nice, juicy apple. That'll be $20.
Huh? $20 for 1 apple?
Oops.
Oh, woe is me.
Call the police.
Bottom line, whether low-tech or high-tech, using cheating scales is totally forbidden. In fact, our sages tell us that a person who uses false weights is considered to have transgressed every mitzvah of the Torah.
A holy lifestyle. Wow! This week's Parsha is packed with so many mitzvos.
I had no idea.
And although this Shazak Parsha is quite long,
I think we broke a record.
we hardly covered all of them.
Oh, really?
Still, to sum up the Parsha in one word,
Holy!
Indeed, our Parsha begins with the statement,
Kedoshim, Kedoshim Tiyu.
Be holy. Ends with,
Kedoshim, V'yisam Kedoshim.
also translated, be holy. And it's even named
Parshas Kedoshim.
But there is a lot more to being holy than just doing the mitzvahs Hashem told us to do.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
One of the greatest Chumash commentators, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, known as the Ramban, surprises us when he talks about a person who is super careful to do all the mitzvahs but is far from holy.
The Ramban actually coined the famous term when he described such a person as a novel birshus haTorah,
A disgusting person.
with the permission of the Torah. Indeed, when we look into the Torah, we can't find anything wrong with what this disgusting person is doing, but it is definitely not in the spirit of the Torah. And no doubt about it, that's not how Hashem wants us to act.
Confused yet?
Confused.
Well, I'm confused.
I'm very confused.
What type of unholy, disgusting person is the Ramban describing?
I don't know.
It's time for a Shazak scenario.
Freddie Fresser, who is extremely careful with the kosher laws,
I only shop at Super Glotch, nowhere else.
just loves to eat meat and drink beer. One bright, sunny day, he joins a kosher hot dog eating contest, trying to beat the record of 12 hot dogs in 2 minutes.
I'm trying to beat the record of 42 hot dogs in 2 minutes. I mean 12 hot dogs in 2 minutes.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
On your mark, get set, go! Freddie stuffs himself with hot dogs, full of ketchup and mustard, dripping down his chin and onto his clothes. One hot dog after another, and another. And to top it off, he guzzles down a gallon of beer. Is the food and drink Freddie eats kosher?
Yes! Yes, you better believe it.
Is he living a holy lifestyle?
Oh,
No way! Freddie needs to learn that a holy person, a member of Am Yisrael, should act in a way that is refined and special, beyond the strict interpretation of the mitzvos. This is reflected in the way a Jew talks, walks, dresses, and eats. It's important, concludes the Ramban, to know what Kedoshim is all about.
Kadesh atzmecha v'muter lach.
Make yourself holy, even with things that are permitted. Next week's Parsha, Parshas Emor, will take us on a trip around the Jewish calendar. We'll learn about mitzvos that we do on the Jewish holidays, and much more. Tune in next week for another exciting episode of Shazak Parsha.
I'm so excited!
Okay, here we